We often think about physics and metaphysics as, well, separate things. Like physics is all about the universe, like how it works with math and experiments and stuff. And then there's metaphysics, which is like, whoa, those big questions about reality, existence, things you can't really like test in a lab.
Exactly, yeah. But what if that separation is actually, kind of holding us back from really understanding the universe and everything?
That's what we're looking at today.
We're looking at Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander.
Oh, yeah, he's interesting.
A thinker who really, challenges this divide.
Yeah.
He uses language in really interesting ways, and he's not afraid to just, completely rethink how we approach these big questions.
Yeah, and he had this fascinating dialogue with a Google Gemini voice profile, remember?
Oh, yeah.
It really makes you think, what are the real differences between physics and metaphysics anyway?
Right.
And how much do the words we use actually shape how we understand science?
A lot, I think.
So for this deep dive, we're going to really dig into Alexander's approach and what it could mean for us, how we see the universe and our place in it, all that good stuff. So if you're the kind of person who loves those aha moments and you want to understand some pretty complex stuff, well, stick around.
So who is Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander exactly?
Well, the Haunted by Science podcast called him a metaphysical scientist, a master hypnotist, and a one-person enterprise.
Wow, that's apples.
Yeah, but that title, metaphysical scientist, right off the bat, that tells you he's trying to bridge the gap between these two worlds.
He's not shying away from it.
No, and his background in hypnosis, I think that gives him a unique perspective on consciousness, which is a big deal in metaphysics, right? But maybe we can explore it through the lens of applied physics, which is part of his framework.
Great, that's interesting.
And being independent, like a one-person enterprise,
Yeah.
I think that gives him the freedom to think outside the box, not be limited by the traditional academic structures.
Right. He's got degrees in clinical hypnosis and metaphysical sciences.
And he's also a musician.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he creates sound for hypnosis and meditation.
So he's exploring the mind through, multiple avenues.
Exactly. But it doesn't stop there. He's an actor, producer, director. He even writes about everything from demonology to his own podcasts like Uniquilibrium.
So he's engaging with these complex ideas in so many different ways.
And I think that really shows his commitment to understanding and communicating these big ideas across all these different disciplines.
It seems like he's not letting any boundaries hold him back.
No, not at all. And this is where his M.E.T.A. framework comes in.
M.E.T.A.
Yeah, it stands for Mathematical, Experimental, Theoretical, and Applied Physics. He's basically redefining meta as a core part of science.
So he's not saying meta is beyond physics.
No, he's saying it's an essential part of physics.
Yeah.
It's a huge shift in perspective. And by including applied physics in there, he's linking these big theoretical ideas to real-world applications.
Right, so it's not just abstract concepts floating around.
Exactly. And one of his main goals seems to be demystifying those phenomena that people often call supernatural.
Okay.
By showing that they might actually have roots in fundamental scientific principles.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, he talks about quantum mechanics a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Things like entanglement, where two particles are linked and share the same fate instantly no matter how far apart they are.
Yeah.
And superposition, where a particle can exist in multiple states at the same time.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, and people often misinterpret these concepts as being mystical or something. But Alexander wants to investigate them scientifically.
Right.
And he thinks this could even open up a dialogue between physicists and philosophers.
And this all feeds into his doctoral thesis, Eternal Echoes, a metaphysical inquiry into the fate of the universe.
Oh, yeah, his thesis.
Big type.
Big ideas. He's basically arguing that to truly understand the cosmos, we need to combine the evidence-based approach of cosmology with the deep questioning of metaphysics.
So using both lenses to look at these ultimate questions about existence, the universe's destiny, all that.
Right. And one of the key arguments he makes is that metaphysics is actually necessary.
Necessary.
Because even with all its power, mainstream cosmology doesn't really address questions like what existed before the Big Bang,
Yeah, right.
or what is the deepest nature of reality.
Yeah.
And he explores some pretty wild ideas in there, like eternal recurrence, the idea that the universe repeats itself over and over again.
Whoa.
And he even coined this term M.E.T.A. physics,
Okay.
which he describes as a way of asking those deep, probing questions about existence.
So it's not just about physics, it's about going beyond the physical.
Right. And it's all connected to his interest in death and eternity. He even identifies as a thanatologist, someone who studies death.
So there's a personal element to this work as well.
Definitely. And in Eternal Echoes, he takes us through all these different cosmological models, like the Big Bang, inflation, the cyclic model, even the multiverse.
Wow.
And he ties those in with these big philosophical questions about time, space, consciousness in the cosmos, and even the limitations of language.
It's like he's weaving together all these different threads.
Exactly. And his ultimate conclusion is that this ongoing conversation between science and metaphysics is absolutely vital.
It's not about picking one over the other.
No. And he uses the metaphor of eternal echoes to symbolize this deep interconnectedness between everything.
Now, this work is deeply personal for him. He's talked about feeling isolated in his metaphysical explorations.
Yeah.
And how his interest in death and eternity has really driven him to bridge these two worlds.
He even considers things like the heat-death scenario.
The idea that the universe eventually reaches a state where there's no usable energy left.
Yeah. And he sees that as a potential challenge to the idea of an eternal universe. But he also looks at models like the cyclic universe, which could align with the conservation of energy.
So there are different possibilities to consider.
So what do you think are the big philosophical implications of all this? Of redefining M.E.T.A. and everything?
Well, it could lead to a kind of naturalistic metaphysics, right? Where we explore these fundamental questions about reality using scientific findings and methods.
That's an interesting thought.
And it could definitely blur the lines between disciplines even more, encouraging those conversations between physicists and philosophers.
Yeah.
But there's also the risk of oversimplifying metaphysics, or maybe misapplying scientific tools to these big questions.
Right, it's not a perfect solution.
And honestly, the relationship between physics and metaphysics is already super complex even today.
Yeah.
There's so much overlap, and physics itself often raises metaphysical questions.
True.
And some areas of theoretical physics are practically metaphysics already.
It's hard to draw a clear line sometimes.
And there are so many different viewpoints on which field is more fundamental.
Yeah, it's a constant debate.
And then there's the whole field of metaphysics of science, which shows just how interconnected these two areas really are.
So language plays a huge role in all of this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Physics has its own specific terminology. It's metaphor.
Right.
And metaphysics is full of ambiguity and figurative language.
Yeah.
So Alexander's M.E.T.A. redefinition, it's a deliberate act of linguistic reframing. It makes you wonder, could changing the words we use actually change how we understand these ideas?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
And when you think about concepts from modern physics that have these huge metaphysical implications,
Yeah, like what?
like quantum entanglement,
Yeah.
that spooky action at a distance,
Yeah.
it challenges our ideas about interconnectedness
Right.
or quantum teleportation, which makes us rethink identity and information.
And then there are the multiverse theories, raising all sorts of questions about existence and possibility.
Exactly. And Alexander's M.E.T.A. framework suggests that we should try to understand these concepts through the lens of rigorous physics.
Rather than just labeling them as mystical or something.
Yeah.
So to sum it all up, Alexander is working hard to bridge this gap between physics and metaphysics.
With his M.E.T.A. framework and his Eternal Echoes thesis.
He's pushing for a more unified understanding of the universe, greater collaboration between different fields, and new discoveries.
But we have to be careful about oversimplification and make sure we're not misusing scientific methods.
Absolutely.
But his idea of eternal echoes, that interconnectedness between everything,
Yeah.
it makes you think, right?
About what?
About how seemingly different areas of knowledge, they might actually offer surprising insights into each other. It encourages you to keep exploring those connections, to go beyond what you see on the surface and see how everything might be linked in ways we never expected.
It really makes you think.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Until next time.